On today's show, big question for the Dallas Mavericks going into the offseason. Should they go after Rudy Gobert? Is he available? We'll talk about the pros and cons, the yeses and the nos. All about that French center, the Stifle Tower. On today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Help us get to 12,000 subs. There's like 56% of you that are watching literally right now that are not subscribed. Hit the button. Help us get to 12K by the playoffs. Joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the UNC Sun, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Super sad. No, actually, I'm not super sad. I'm actually proud of that Tar Heel team. they were the definition of limping to a finish line, and obviously didn't get to cross it, but I just wasn't heartbroken after that game. I'm like, you tried your hardest, and they were an 8 seed. Like, it's crazy because it's North Carolina, and you're not supposed to, like, they're a juggernaut of a franchise, of a school, but
program, I think they call them.
Yeah, program. But the fact that they're an 8 seed and they made it to the title game, and that would have been talked about more if it wasn't North Carolina. Shout out to the guy who tweeted at me. It's like, yeah, it's not that surprising though, because they have.
Okay, well, show me your bracket then.
Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was a fun tournament. And it was just a wild, weird season. Happy for a former Dallas Maverick, Hubert Davis.
Yeah, absolutely. It felt a lot like the Bengals run, to be honest. Like nobody ever thought you were going to get there. You beat the team that, no one thought you could beat. And then you get to the end, and then it's like, oh, well, we're just happy to be here. And then you almost win it, and you're like, oh, dang it. For right there to win it. And both star players for both teams limping at the end.
Yeah. But we killed Coach K. So
that's all that matters. Today.
Can't spell killed without K.
Some of you may be wondering, why are you guys talking about Rudy Gobert right now? Like, why now? The Mavericks are playing well. They're getting close to the 3 seed. They're getting, the playoffs are coming up. Why are you guys talking about the offseason right now? Well, over the last couple of weeks here, I don't know if you've noticed, the reason why the Mavericks can get up to the 3 seed and the reason why the Mavericks are probably going to get home court advantage in these playoffs is the Jazz have been sliding here a little bit. The Jazz have just not been their best. They definitely are not the team that they were last year. They're definitely not the team that they've been the last couple of years here because things are just off with them. There's so many just, different things. Last year they had a 72%, winning percentage. That's an insane winning percentage. It was one of their greatest in NBA in team history for them. And now it's, they're still playing decently well, but they're just not up to their same standards. And it just feels like everything's bubbling over. It feels like there's going to be some changes. Tim McMahon talked about those potential changes on the Low Post podcast. Zach Lowe's podcast said the Mavericks would have significant interest in Jazz center Rudy Gobert if he's available on the market per information from internal and external sources. Mark Stein also backed that up and said Gobert is considered more likely to become available via trade than Mitchell. If Gobert is shopped, 2 teams expect to express interest are the Dallas Mavericks and the Toronto Raptors. So let's get into it. Isaac Harris, why Gobert and why now?
Oh gosh. I'm actually going to save my full opinion on it until the 3rd segment of this pod of whether I think.
Oh, good tease. Let's go.
Yeah, good tease there. But I'm so intrigued what happens with Utah. And it feels like they're at that point that it's like, hey, you can't just run it back next year. And I mean, there's a reason why we've been wanting Utah in a playoff series.
Yeah.
And recently over the past month, shocking here, they've had some, passive aggressive sniping at each other through, media and all of that. And
is it passive aggressive if it's so obvious?
I mean, I guess not. But, Rudy said his things. Donovan Mitchell said his things. And yeah, I mean, if they get put on the first round, they have to shake something up. It feels like Gobert would be the natural thing, because why give up on your young superstar and Donovan Mitchell? But this is one of the biggest questions I think of the whole offseason. If they do trade him, is figuring out what his trade value is. Like, what on earth is Rudy Gobert's trade value for a guy who's 29 years old? And at the end of his contract, he's going to be 34 years old, making $46 million. And we'll go over all of his contract numbers in a little bit, but just that alone, combined with just the narrative of like him in the playoffs, whether that's true or not true, he gets played off the floor. Is he the reason why they lose? Like, all this stuff, everybody has different opinions on. I'm just fascinated to see, like, he could get multiple first round picks from a team and a couple players, and it wouldn't shock me. He could go for like a salary filler and like a unprotected first, and it wouldn't shock me either. So I don't know. What, did you just say something?
No, that second option is the one the Mavs have. So
yeah, I mean, it's just like, so your question of like, why now? I think that's why now for Rudy to potentially be on the trading blocks, because Utah has to change up something to satisfy Donovan Mitchell. Why, if you're Dallas, would you be interested? I mean, we could go all day for the different reasons on it. I mean, one, I just want to throw this in there. His agency is somebody that Dallas is very familiar with. He has the same agent of Frank Ntilikina. He has the same agent of Jan Mahinmi. So his agent lives in Dallas, but it's like there is, which, I mean, at this point, every team has relationships with every agent and all of the stuff, but there are his agent represents a lot of French players, Fournier, Nicolas Batum, like so many of these guys are represented by this guy. So Dallas definitely has a relationship with his agent to where if he did hit the block. And if you're Rudy Gobert, I joked about this on Twitter the other day, that he's like looking at Dwight Powell, envious of Dwight Powell. If you're Rudy Gobert and you know you're on the trading block and you know you're going to go somewhere else, well, who else would you rather go play for than the best pick and roll guy in the entire NBA, and Luka Doncic? You know he's going to want to come to Dallas.
Yeah, and so it's an obvious part of it. And also, I want to push back and say that interest isn't everything, right? Like, of course they're gonna have interest in a player that's 3-time defensive player of the year, right? It doesn't mean they're gonna sell the farm for him. They're gonna trade everything, like all their future picks and everything. They're just gonna go all out for him. That doesn't mean they're like totally sold on him. It's not the same as the Giannis plan from a couple years ago, right? Where they're just gonna, all right, we can't make any moves. We're just gonna wait on what Giannis is gonna do, and then we'll not add any free agents or anything just because we're waiting to see what Giannis can do. Because if that happens, then it changes our franchise forever, right? And that's such an obvious type 1, day one move that we would make. I don't think this is the same thing. That there's going to have to be some decisions that they'll have to make, and there's going to have to be some conversations you have to have, both with Luka, in back channels with Rudy Gobert, and all over the place to see how it would work. Basketball wise, though, there's all kinds of pros and all kinds of things that we'll talk about in a second here. But it's happening now because the Jazz are seem like this is coming to an end. I feel like I've even heard David Locke talk about it. Hey, it feels like this era is sort of coming to an end for the Jazz, at least the effectiveness of this era. Now watch this team like beat the Warriors in the first round and get to the Western Conference Finals somehow. But it does feel like this era is moving on. And then we had a couple of these reports saying that Gobert would be the most likely one to be moved. Now, unless Mitchell asks out.
I don't. One of the things I didn't understand when listening, I'm sure a lot of you guys listen to McMahon on those podcasts. One of the things I didn't understand was, hey, if they trade Rudy, they'd have to trade Mitchell and all of that. Like if I'm Utah, Donovan's so young, why not try to retool? Like, I mean, I get he can ask out and all of that, but I still feel like there's a window that
the Blazers think they can retool around Damian Lillard at his age, then why can't the Jazz retool around Donovan Mitchell when he's 25?
Yeah, so then it kind of flips to the other side too of, okay, well, what if Donovan does, what if he does ask out and they do trade him somewhere else? Wouldn't they just keep Rudy at that point and just say, hey, you're going to be one of our guys that just stays with our franchise for a long time, and then whoever else you bring in, it's going to be another guard or playmaker on the wing or something like that. And then just try, unless you just want to go the full teardown route and just dump Rudy at that point. But I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen with them. I mean, they have a great part owner in Dwayne Wade that I'm sure will lead them to the promised land. I can't even finish that. It's not even.
You tried real hard. You tried real hard to finish. All right, coming up, let's talk about the pros and cons of this for the Mavericks, both on the court and off the court, because there's both for both of those things, right? Yeah. The good and the bad. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Daily Fantasy Made Easy. If you want to have some fun, play Prize Picks. It's prizepicks.com. You can download the award-winning app. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under based on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's safe and it offers fast withdrawals. You can download the app in the App Store and Google Play. And right now they're offering, a fun thing for you. If you go to Prize Picks, they have an exclusive no-brainer offer for all of the users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. But you must use the promo code NBA. It's just the word NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today. Use the promo code NBA for $50 free at Prize Picks on the website or on their award-winning app. Also, want to tell you about Bet Online. College basketball is over now. Both the women's and the men's tournaments, and South Carolina wins for the women's. Kansas wins for the men's. It's always weird to me when like a state with no basketball wins no NBA team wins the college tournament. I don't know why. There's all kinds of NBA stuff. There's all kinds of off-season things that you can look forward to. WNBA championship odds. Connecticut Sun plus 350. The Aces plus 375. Semantic satiation. The Dallas Wings plus 5,000. That is not a bet I would take this year. That is a young team trying to figure out what they're doing, but they'll probably be back in the playoffs this year. So if you want to go put some money down on one of those WNBA teams, go and check it out at Bet Online. Go head to the website today. Use your mobile device. Learn more about the trends in action. It's Bet Online, where the game starts. Thanks for bringing Locked On Mavs your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NBA game, even though there were none tonight, with analysis from your local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Isaac, let's just start with the on the court stuff with Rudy Gobert, because I feel like that's a little more interesting and more
are there any pros for him off the court?
Quantifiable. It adds another international player for the Mavs. I don't know if they're trying to check them all off their bingo chart.
I was like, I don't know if there's any pros off the court right now. But
so on the court, obviously the pros start and end with the defensive end. The Mavs have, when they traded Kristaps Porzingis, one of the things that I said was this defense is probably going to get a little worse because Porzingis has been a really good rim protector, and the Mavs had built a really, really, really good defense around their wings, and then the rim protector was kind of a secondary thing. With Rudy Gobert, you can just all of a sudden it makes all of your wing defenders better. Like the reason why that Jazz team was so good with wing defenders like Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic and Royce O'Neal, like just those three guys basically, and Donovan Mitchell a little bit, just with those guys, because Rudy was back there, right? He was back there, and like look at the on-off numbers for him this year and then the last couple of years. His numbers are crazy when you look at how good his team was when he's out there defensively. The Mavs can just build their whole system around him and still be able to do some of the switchy stuff when they want to put in Dwight Powell later, and it'll still work for them. They have that system built in already. Then they bring in Rudy Gobert. It changes their defense completely. It would make it even more of a strength for their team. And now all of a sudden you have a defense that Luka Doncic can go and take to the NBA Finals. I mean, honestly, I toyed around with the idea that, hey, if they had gotten Miles Turner this year, I think I would pick them maybe to go to the finals. And Rudy Gobert is another level of a defender for them.
He raises their floor as far as their defense of, when they come out and they don't have the effort right now defensively, and they're not just firing all over the court, switching and recovering and just all over the place. If they're not like at the top of their game effort wise on defense right now, they're giving up 135 a game. But if Rudy's in there and you have some of these nights that where you're like, you just don't have it on the perimeter, or you're not switching correctly, you're not communicating, like Rudy's going to raise the floor of your defense to where you're going to be a good defensive team no matter what. Now, could you be an elite defensive team? Possibly, but you're going like your floor is going to be a good defensive team. And that would just change everything defensively with this team. And he just, there's a difference also. I know we're going to talk about him being a lob threat, but there's a difference between somebody being a lob threat and a big body. The fact that he can give you everything as a lob threat that Dwight does on the roll. Why are you smiling?
Say it. Say the word.
What?
He can set screens, and then those screens can turn into.
No, I don't care. I'm not even going to say anything about screens. I'm saying that like Dwight is a great rim roller, elite rim roller, and he's a lob threat. Rudy's a better lob threat. But the difference is Dwight's going to come down the other end and be a mismatch on defense. He's not as big as a Jokic or an Embiid or something like that.
They have to send doubles.
Exactly. Rudy Gobert can be the rim roller that Dwight is, a bigger rim roller, bigger catch radius rim roller than Dwight is, and have the size on the defensive end to where he's not requiring a double in the post and be able to man up against some of these other guys. So that is a unique thing about him, that he's not just a lob threat, but he's a big enough body of a lob threat that he can hold his own defensively.
While we're on defense, the rebounding, right? Rebounding would be huge. Dwight Powell's taking a big step forward. Good for him, all that. But Rudy Gobert is leading the league in rebounds right now, 14, like almost 15 rebounds a game. And he's been, between 11 and 14 rebounds a game since 2015, right? Like he has been absolutely eating on the boards, and that is a big thing that the Mavs would definitely take, right? Offensive rebounds. He averages almost 4 a game this year. That is huge. Those are massive. Imagine the extra possessions. If you give Luka extra possessions, he wins games.
Yeah. I was looking at Rudy's synergy numbers as far as the roll man and the pick and roll. And I just did a minimum of 150 possessions as the roll man. And can you guess who's number 1 on that in points per possession?
The roll man? Oh, is
Dwight
it Dwight? Yeah.
Dwight Powell, number 1 at 1.4 points per possession. After that's Clint Capella, then Sabonis, then Rudy Gobert. And Rudy Gobert has 217 of those attempts. But it just shows you that he's a very good rim roller. And he doesn't even play with like a playmaking like point guard. Like Donnie's all right, but I mean we've all seen
Conley.
Conley. But as far as like we've all seen the clips of them not passing to him or he's open, all this stuff. Like if we think Dwight Powell gets lobs right now, can you imagine? You couldn't give me the bet online number fast enough for who would lead the league in dunks for Rudy Gobert if he was a Dallas Maverick, because
I think he already does.
Rudy Gobert in Dallas would catch so many lobs and have so many easy baskets. How many times does Luka find Dwight rolling to the basket or underneath the basket for like so many easy buckets? Now imagine him 7'1" with that crazy wingspan, and it would just be, and having like him being such a good rim roller in that Dwight Powell spot and being better at it, which is crazy to think about him, somebody being better at Dwight at rolling to the rim. It would create even more space for the shooters, right? Like if it raises that even up another notch, teams are going to be collapsing even more, creating even more space for shooters on the outside. That would just be wild to think about.
Those are all incredible positives, right? Is there any more positives, offense or defense?
We would agree that they would be an amazing regular season team, right? Like that. 50 plus for.
For sure. When you talk about raising the floor, like, of course, they would be an amazing regular season team. But then the question becomes, okay, well, then how do you take it into the playoffs? And the same things that are happening to the Jazz happen to the Mavericks. And that's where some of these cons come in. The cons on the court are now all of a sudden you don't have this switchy defense that you can just, you can do all the things that you've been doing. And you're prone to Gobert getting out in switches, and hopefully the Mavs would be able to cover up for it better than the Jazz have been able to cover up for it.
Yeah, and it would give just a little bit of cushion to Luka. And I know we've praised Luka so much when it comes to his defense and how this season I feel like is his best defensive season.
For sure.
But it would give just a little bit of breathing room of, hey, oh no, we're talking about, never mind. I was going to stay on the positives for a second.
I was going to say, this is going positive.
I know. I was wanting to,
that's because
this is a positive world. We'll take the positive.
I put this note down and I just want to throw this out there. I don't even want to attempt the last
Wait,
name.
say the thing.
One more positive thing. Luka played with, correct me if I'm wrong on how I'm saying this last name, Eddie Tavares.
I think so. Yeah. I think you're right.
He played with him overseas, and I would like watching that. That's just anyway. I'm like, is that Luka and Rudy in the NBA potentially? But on the court, it would change their defensive system, what they have now, but they would also have that card in their back pocket, like you said a while ago. If they did, because this is one of the things
you can keep Maxey and Dwight.
That's the thing we'll talk about in this third segment of, if they did keep Dwight in a deal, if they traded, for Rudy, then you at least have that card in your back pocket where like, hey, we can still roll this when Rudy's on the bench.
Another big positive is that all of a sudden your bench unit, if it's Dwight and Maxey off the bench as your bigs off the bench, we've been screaming for that for years. Like that's a perfect bigs off the bench that you can continue to switch stuff. You can continue to do all the things that you want to do with those two guys. And it would, that would be incredible for the Mavs.
All right, let's talk about the cons because I have some.
All right, coming up, we'll get into the reasons why the Mavs shouldn't do this, the cons for Rudy Gobert, and then we'll give our final things on the contract and if we think the Mavs should and should not pursue this in the offseason. Talk about that. But before we do, let me tell you about rockauto.com. I don't know about you, but it's a weird season in Texas right now. There's hail, there's weird stuff.
Storming right now.
Weather is weird. It's storming outside right now. You may, if you don't have cover over your car, I know that when I lived in apartment complexes, I didn't have covering over my car. I had to make some repairs. I had to fix some stuff. You can do that at Rock Auto. They have every part that you can need for your car or truck. Go check it out. Go see your car on there. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. I know. If you don't have covered parking, you need to save money on something. Right? Yep. You got to save money. Rock Auto can do that. Go explore their easy-to-use website today. Find a solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Isaac, let's get into the cons about Rudy Gobert. We talked a lot about the pros. We actually went longer on the pros than I expected. Which I guess is good because there's a lot of pros.
People. We are for the people.
The cons are it's another non-shooter for the Mavs offensively, right? Like it's another non-shooter. You have to take that into account. And so, yes, the lob threat would be incredible, right? And not that Dwight Powell has added the three-point shot to his game this year. Remember back Fan Jam when he took that three? And I was like, ooh, he's got the green light. He had the green light for like a month, and then Jason Kidd was like, no, don't do that ever. Don't do that ever again.
Ever.
Don't do that ever again. He's taken 37 threes this year in 79 games. Dwight Powell has.
Ooh, what's that percentage?
But it's another non-shooter, and so that we saw what can happen when the Mavs have a big that's a shooter like Porzingis. So if let's say they did get a Miles Turner instead, that opens up your offense a lot because Miles Turner can be a little bit of a roller. He's not as good as Dwight or Rudy, but he spaces the floor. And we've seen what the Mavs can do with a spacing big. They were the best offense in NBA history at that point, right? And so that's something that the Mavs would not have. They'd have to settle with still keeping just this roller and trying to figure out how to use him, trying to figure out, the chemistry between him and Luka. Like that is a whole thing. Like Dwight and Luka have gotten so good because they've played together for like 4 years now, right? They know each other. Luka's the one that wanted him in the starting lineup because he knows how to work with him best. He knows how to hit him just the right spots. They have a rhythm, right? The rhythm that we were waiting for Luka and KP to finally figure out again. They just never got back on that same page. It takes two specific people to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Go to a Jazz, Stockton and Malone. They had that chemistry, right? They had that two-man game where they could figure out exactly where this guy's going and that. Luka and Rudy would have to figure that out. Now, the question is, would they want to? I know Rudy would want to, but would Luka want to?
Well, I mean, you can't ignore it. Like, just stand on off the court stuff. Like, you can't ignore that everybody seems to hate this guy. Like, why?
Not just on the Mavs.
Yeah, no. Yeah, like across the league. Like, I fired off a half joking tweet of like, is he the most like disliked player, like least approval rating with players among the league? And it's like, what's the reason for that? Like, even on his team, like we've read the stuff with Donovan Mitchell, and like, so what is the reason for that? And then you factor in Dwight's relationship with Luka, how well liked Dwight is. And so I have this question but I want to lump in the contract part of this too, because this is obviously a huge
the
thing
biggest
for
part,
him.
I think.
It is the biggest part. 29 years old this season, he's making $34.8 million. So kind of just write that off because he can't get traded or anything this season. So going into next year, he makes 37.6, then 40.4, then 43.2, then 45.9. This is according to Hoopside.
I was gonna say the Spotrac numbers are a little bit higher than those, but about the same.
So here's my question. Is he worth $33 more million for a year older, very well liked Dwight Powell? I think that
defensively, probably just by itself.
I'm not saying I have the answer for that. I'm just saying.
But that's the question you have to ask,
because there is chemistry stuff that you can't ignore. There is the passive aggressive media comments and the sniping about the team that a lot of times it kind of reminds me of the Porzingis stuff a little bit of like
the vibes was one of the things I wrote down about negatives.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, some of your comments aren't really false, but there's a reason why these comments don't come out in the media very often, because it hurts the overall team chemistry and all this. Like, you don't be that honest a lot of times when it comes to talking on the media. That was one of my things with KP, to where like, all right, like just keep the mouth shut sometimes. Like, don't say that now. It makes it just look so
that movie
weird.
Liar. What's that movie Liar? Like sometimes you just don't want to be as honest as as you can.
It's like you factor in all of that, his team chemistry, relationship with players, relationship with people around the league, how people view him, and then you factor in his contract, and you're like, is he worth $33 more million for a 1 year older Dwight Powell, who is very well liked among the team and has very good chemistry with Luka Doncic? And I think that's the question you're asking. I mean, Dwight's under contract for next season at $11 million. You also factor in that last year, we said a while ago,
looking like a discount.
Well, you look at Rudy Gobert in that 2025 season, we get caps going up, all that stuff. 2025 season, he's making $46 million. He's going to be 34 years old. And it's like, I mean, and are you ready to commit that much? How much of the cap? I mean, they say it's going to go up to like 122. What's that? Like 35% of your cap or whatever it is, if that's what it is in 2025. Are you ready to commit 40 something? I mean,
37%.
So you would be trading and you would be getting him for 4 seasons, basically. And 3 of those 4 seasons, he's making over $40 million. That's a good chunk of your cap for a center, for a guy who's not playing on the perimeter, that's not shooting a 3-pointer. So you better be dang confident that he's going to be taking your team. And that's why you have to ask the question, can he perform in the playoffs? Can he get you to the title? Because you have to ask that question if you're paying him over $40 million.
Absolutely. Here are the centers this year that are 34 years old or older. Al Horford is 35. JaVale McGee is 34. LaMarcus Aldridge and Dwight Howard are 36. DeAndre Jordan was 33 entering this year. Like, that's how,
he's playing great for Philly.
It can go downhill for centers like that. Robin Lopez is 33. Brooke Lopez is 33. That's a good example. Boban is 33. Like, those are the only centers in the entire NBA 33 years old or older heading into this year. And so that's what you'd be looking at for the last year of Rudy Gobert. $46 million in the prime of Luka's career, right? Luka would be, how old would Luka be? He's 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. He'd be 27 years old in that last year of Gobert's deal. All of a sudden, like, what if the vibes are the same? Like him and Gobert, like Luka and Gobert work the same way as like him and Luka. It's just, they don't really vibe. They don't really like each other. There's just some weird stuff there. What if it's the same stuff? And then the contract is the same, but worse. Right. Then then all of a sudden you have the same exact problem you just had. Right. And so, if Rudy Gobert is the only option for the Mavs to make a significant jump, then I think they should probably go for it, because your window is only so big. But if you're able to be picky, if Nico Harrison is able to get somebody else, the whole reason why they got Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison and try to clear up some space here and get, be more multiple with contract, is to get the perfect guy to be next to Luka. Is Rudy Gobert that? I don't think so. He'd be great. He'd probably average 20 points a game just next to Luka. Like 20 points a game just on lobs. Like literally it would just be like 10 field goals made a game and 10 field goal attempts made per game. Just like dunk every time.
The margin for error would be so, like, the pressure would be so high if they traded for him.
Yeah.
Because if Rudy doesn't help the Mavericks get to the title, like get to the championship playing with Luka Doncic, then his trade value at his age and for the position that he plays, making $40+ million will not be high at all. No. So if you trade for him, one, you're going to be giving up assets. So like, what does that deal even look like? Like Tim probably has to be in it. Then you're looking at either Dwight or Dinwiddie. Then you're probably at least looking at a pick, right? I mean, I'm just guessing.
Or could you do some kind of like sign and trade with Brunson?
I guess, but even if you do that, so you're giving up a couple key pieces to your rotation, to your team, and you're committing to paying him for the $40+ million for at least three of those seasons, 37 for that first one. That's just a big bet, right? Like that's a big bet for a guy for an upgrade over Dwight, and that's the thing. It's like, if you think that upgrade from Dwight is putting a ring on Luka Doncic's finger in Dallas, then you make that risk, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing that you're asking yourself. And for me, my answer, and I know this is going to be the cop out, I can't make it right now.
Oh, come on. You teased it.
No. I teased it.
You teased it.
I teased it. I can't make it because we got to see what happens in the playoffs. And I think this is my lesson for it is I don't think everybody has to have a take on this, on Rudy Gobert and Dallas right now. Let's see what happens. Let's see what a small ball. We said it after they made the Porzingis trade. This is a new way for them to go into the playoffs with Luka Doncic. They no longer have the big alongside Luka. Now they're going to the playoffs with this new way of this small ball, switchy, smaller center and Dwight. Let's see how far they go. If they go to the conference finals with Dwight as their center and they compete in 6 or 7 games, you know what I'm saying? I don't want Rudy. Let's invest more on the perimeter.
Let's invest somewhere else. Yep.
Yes, let's get a better ball handler next to Luka. Let's see what made them not make the finals. If they go out in the first round and play Denver and they lose in 5 or 6 games and Jokic just torches Dwight, and that's the pure reason why, like, we lose the rebounding battle so bad, we lose the paint battle so bad, they're scoring at will at the rim, Jokic is killing us, and we lose in 5 or 6 games, you know what I'm probably saying? Swing for Rudy Gobert. So I have to see we at least have to give it one shot, one playoff run to see what this new look Mavs team plays with Luka.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to say no on Gobert because if the Mavs are going to make that move, if they're going to make that move to say, hey, let's invest in a big center, I'd much rather it be Miles Turner, right? Half the cost, half the age. Like if you just want to compare them, the age is much lower, and so your risk isn't as much. He's still a really good rim protector, one of the best in the NBA. So if you're going to make that risk, try it on a lower level than it would be to go all in on Rudy Gobert. We have to give up multiple things and all that. Now, maybe you don't have to. What if it's Tim and Davis and the first round pick for Rudy Gobert? Would you do that?
Well,
did you do something crazy like that?
I want to see what the playoffs look like, but also that's why I reserve a little bit of if they get bounced in the first round and then they go into the playoffs, or they go into the offseason. They go into the offseason and the options to upgrade the roster is very limited. And then we know that there's a trade on the table for Rudy Gobert and they could take it. If it's Rudy Gobert or nothing after another playoffs in which they lose in the first round, and let's say it is like a 5 or 6 games against a non-Clippers opponent, then I think I'd be more inclined to say, all right, let's swing for it. You don't get these opportunities that often. You get a defensive anchor, defensive player of the year to play with Luka. Now let's
go get a better seed in the regular season, better first round opponent, and try to get there
and try to go from there. And so I hear that. I hear the talent thing of like, oh, Dallas free agents, all that stuff. I'm with you. I lean no right now, but I also want to wait for that full answer to see how they do in the playoffs.
This has to be factored in too, and we'll end here. Do we want to be rooting for Rudy Gobert after we have just like slandered him so much?
Oh.
Like the entire MFFL fan base has just like slandered this guy for years, and now all of a sudden he'd be welcomed in. Like it would be weirder than the DeAndre Jordan thing, right? Where DeAndre Jordan got completely slammed by everybody because he's scoring the Mavs with that weird Blake Griffin, chair against the door free agency situation. Cuban reportedly driving all over Houston with trying to text him. And this would be weirder if Mavs fans just accepted him.
To think about Mavs fans against a series now against Utah is hilarious to me because so many people are going to be Well, do I say this? Do I, like now everybody's gonna be watching the takes on Twitter because it's like old takes, exposed.
I was gonna say no. Who runs Mavs bad takes? That person's gonna have a field day if the Mavs sign Rudy Gobert or if they trade for Rudy Gobert after they beat him in the first round.
Finding all the Gobert tweets and all that, but no, I mean we had to get this pod off now before we just roast him for a whole playoff series.
little pull back the curtain there.
So we'll see. I still want Utah in the playoffs. So
bring on the Mormons.
Utah's a
bad city. Rudy, get out of the bad city. Where else he should go is Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta would be great.
Just see him and Trae Young just whine about everything.
He needs to go.
Luka whines too. I get it.
Yes, he does. He needs to go to a place where it's a playmaking guard. It's a pick and roll guard. It's a Trae Young. It's a Luka Doncic. It's somebody like that. It's Charlotte with
LeBron James.
Okay, I mean somebody that's good, but he needs to go somewhere like that. And
that's first team All NBA LeBron right there for you.
That's the.
How many first team All NBA votes do you think LeBron gets? 10. At least 10, I think.
How many phones?
Kendrick Perkins is putting him first team All NBA.
How many phones is Clutch calling right now? Also, we love Bill Simmons, but Bill putting Trae over Steph was hilarious to me.
Ooh, that was a decision. We do love it. All right, there you go. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Let us know in the comments what you think about Rudy Gobert. We will be back with the rest of the week. There's good games coming up for the Dallas Mavericks. We're excited about the Mavs finishing out the season. Go listen to the Locked On NBA podcast. It's David Ramil and Matt Moore. Matt Moore finally putting Luka first team NBA because y'all bullied him.
About time, Matt.
Y'all bullied him into putting it. So go listen to them on Locked On NBA. 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
So.
Boom! Tough acting to acting.